look at Arizona's newest COVID-19 vaccination site. We'll tell you where and how you can get your doses.
Plus, GOP party switch, why thousands of Arizona Republicans are changing their party affiliation following the 2020 election.
And later this half hour on Break It Down, the harm of racial gaslighting.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening, and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Brianna Alexander.
And I'm Nick Shesky. Thank you for joining us.
A new mass vaccination site has opened at Phoenix Municipal Stadium. Cronkite News reporter Delaney White was there for the opening this morning.
Right now, the site can only administer 500 doses per day. That's due to the current vaccine supply, but there are hopes to increase that. Cars were lined up today with appointments already fully booked. ASU's Phoenix Municipal Stadium opened as the second state-run vaccination site early this morning. At full capacity, the site could vaccinate up to 12,000 people a day. Alexandra Navratsky, an Arizona State University professor, says she thinks the new site will help, but vaccines need to be more accessible.
It makes it more accessible to people. I mean, I live in Tempe. This is 15 minutes from my home. The other site was, 45 minutes to an hour. But I think they really need to get it locally in the pharmacies and so on to get a lot of people to go, because for a lot of people, it's a good thing that the State Farm site is 24/7, because it means people can go in the evening and don't have to take time off from work, which I think is very good. But until they make it locally available, like the flu vaccine, people are not necessarily going to go to these sites. So you need to do everything.
All appointments for both state-run sites are booked through February. In the broadcast center, Delaney White, Cronkite News.
Meanwhile, Arizona's 24/7 COVID-19 vaccination site reached a milestone. Over the weekend, State Farm Stadium administered its 100,000th dose. Today, the site began administering second doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. According to the Arizona Department of Health Services, almost 660,000 vaccines have been administered so far.
Students at the University of Arizona will still be attending most classes remotely due to high COVID numbers. That was the update today from the administration. Only essential classes will continue with in-person instruction through at least next week. During the virtual news conference, University President Dr. Robert Robbins and Dr. Richard Carmona answered questions surrounding herd immunity and the Defense Production Act. Speaking to concerns over being able to get both doses of multi-shot vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna, Robbins advises students, faculty, and the staff to go ahead and schedule the appointment for their first dose of the vaccine. He says he hopes that President Joe Biden will use the Defense Production Act to increase production.
We have immense capability in our supply chain, but it's divided among lots of different products that we use every day. So that when they say we're going to invoke this now, everybody's going to become a vaccine manufacturer. And I mean everybody in general. The other things still have to go on, but it gives the government great latitude to accelerate the delivery of vaccines in the supply chain. So that's what it's all about. It's really a good law.
Robbins says their philosophy on testing as many people as possible has not changed since last March. He hopes that they can move to phase 2 of reentry in a few weeks, but recognizes that even with decreasing infection rates, now is not the time.
Turning now to politics, Governor Doug Ducey was one of several prominent Republicans to be censored by the GOP recently. As a sign of loyalty to former President Donald Trump, the party censored the governor, along with former Republican Senator Jeff Flake and Cindy McCain, the wife of late Republican Senator John McCain. Ducey publicly opposed the president's efforts to overturn the election results, and Flake and McCain both endorsed Democrat Joe Biden for president. Ducey joined CNN on Sunday morning to defend himself by saying the election results would have had to be challenged through the judiciary after he certified them. He went on to say, despite Arizona distributing more than 600,000 vaccine doses, the state still needs more.
What we need right now, Dana, are more vaccines. We're in danger of running out of the vaccines we have. All we can do is distribute what we receive from the federal government and from the private sector.
He's working with the Biden administration on getting more doses. He's asking for an additional 300,000 to help winter visitors.
Last month, after thousands of people from across the country invaded the U.S. Capitol, thousands of Republican voters here in Arizona switched parties. Tina Giuliano has more on the sudden shift and what this could mean for the GOP moving forward. Tina?
Between January 6th and the 15th, right after the Capitol insurrection, just over 3,300 voters changed their registration, and more would follow. For lifelong Republican Chuck Coughlin, the GOP isn't what it was when he worked with the late Senator McCain.
It was about opportunity and building a party that represented greater opportunity for everyone.
Coughlin changed his registration back in 2017 and says the party is pretty much different today.
What we see today is not that. What we see today is a party that is narrowing and has become a mirror reflection of the Democratic Party and its identity politics.
According to the Washington Post, data from the Arizona Secretary of State confirms about 9,300 Republicans left the party between January 6th and the 24th. Fewer than 1,000 of those became Democrats, and most joined third parties or became independents.
And so the Republican Party is going through a horrific branding experience right now. But what always happens in American history, what happens with politics, what happens with political parties, is the marketplace always fixes itself.
But political parties always evolve, says political consultant Jason Rose.
When your party puts forward a mascot to invade a Capitol that looks like something out of Guardians of the Galaxy or a bad Davy Crockett at Disneyland, I don't care if you're Coca-Cola or Walgreens or the Republican Party, that's not terribly good branding that you want to be associated with.
Coughlin said, although we can't tell the future, he isn't planning on changing his registration anytime soon.
I don't know, I would say if the Democratic Party becomes so progressive and so unrepresentative of the entire electorate and does things that offend me as much as the Republican Party, probably not. I mean, particularly in Arizona, because at least I can select a ballot, an open ballot.
Tomorrow on Arizona Horizon, we talked to former Senator Jeff Flake about recently being censured by the Republican Party for failing to support Trump last year. In the studio, Tina Giuliano, Cronkite News.
Right now, temperatures are rising in Tucson, which means those snowy peaks, well, they're beginning to melt, washing ash and other potentially harmful substances into the Santa Cruz River. The ash from last summer's Bighorn fire contains particles of burned trees and shrubs and can be very harmful to fish and other wildlife. This video, posted by a professor at U Arizona, shows the ash mixing with the crystal clear treated Santa Cruz water after being carried 35 miles down the Canada del Oro.
Tobacco use is currently the leading cause of preventable death and disease in the state of Arizona, and advocates say we aren't doing enough to change that, as Jake Holter reports from our Washington Bureau.
Two new reports about tobacco have Arizona coming up short in many areas, and one of the key areas is the state's failure to keep teens away from flavored e-cigarettes.
These are tobacco use rates we haven't seen in decades.
And John Schachter, the Senior Director of Advocacy Communications at the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, says it's the flavored e-cigarettes that are driving this rise in tobacco use. He would like to see a ban on all flavored tobacco products, noting that there are currently over 15,000 flavors of e-cigarettes on the market. Joanna Strother said the least the state could do is make flavored vapes less attractive, the Senior Director of Advocacy for the American Lung Association. She notes that cigarette smokers in Arizona pay $2 a pack in taxes, a tax e-cig users don't pay.
When we increase the tobacco tax, adults, do quit. Some adults quit, and it does prevent youth from starting.
The American Lung Association report gave Arizona failing grades in areas such as tobacco prevention and cessation funding, flavored tobacco products, and tobacco taxes. Strother calls a tobacco tax a win-win-win.
The first win is it's widely supported by voters. And two is that it creates new revenue for the state, which is really important right now because of COVID-19 impact on the state's budget that it's having. This would create new revenue for the state. and then the public health win.
She thinks the lack of attacks is a major factor in what Schachter calls a vaping epidemic in high schools across the state and the nation. Currently, 1 in 5 high schoolers use tobacco products, according to new data from the CDC. Those are numbers that Schachter says would have been unprecedented only a few years ago.
We've brought down rates across the country to record lows in so many states and made incredible progress. I joke we were on the verge of putting ourselves at the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids out of business. But then e-cigarettes come along, and all of a sudden we're not quite back at square one, but in some ways we're behind the 8 ball again.
In Washington, Jay Coulter, Cronkite News.
Coming up after the break, the Waste Management Phoenix Open is in full swing this week. We'll take a look at how the smaller crowds because of COVID-19 restrictions could have a big impact on the charity match.
And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are gearing up to face the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl this weekend. What former Cardinals head coach and now Bucs head coach Bruce Arians has to say about the big game next.
To watch the best of PBS anytime, anywhere, on nearly any device? It's easy with the free PBS Video app. Simply download the PBS Video app on your mobile or streaming device. Now you can watch the latest PBS episodes or catch up on the shows you missed. And when you support your local station, you can get PBS Passport, giving you access to more episodes, more specials, more of what you love. Ready to watch the best of PBS anytime, anywhere, on nearly any device? It's easy with the free PBS Video app. Simply download the PBS Video app on your mobile or streaming device. Now you can watch the latest PBS episodes or catch up on the shows you missed. Discover new favorites from PBS and local content from your PBS station.
Every day I wake up, my first thought is, how can I serve this community?
The biggest hurdle was not taking PTSD personally.
Would you welcome, please, the amazing.
Everybody that watches this, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
Every day I wake up, my first thought is, how can I serve this community?
The biggest hurdle was not taking PTSD personally.
Would you welcome, please, the amazing.
Everybody that watches this, they say that I am the greatest that they've ever seen.
Welcome back. I'm Kelsey Calisi with your Cronkite Sports Report. The Waste Management Phoenix Open is having to make some big changes this year to the tournament. Sarandon Raboyne tells us how coronavirus will not only affect tournament attendance, but also the charities it helps support.
The spectacle that is the Waste Management Phoenix Open usually brings in millions for local charities. The coronavirus, however, has forced the Thunderbirds to decrease daily attendance from 200,000 fans to no more than 5,000, changing the entire tournament setup.
Typically on the 16th hole, it's 3 stories and can host 16,000 people, on that hole. This year, it's a 1-story, building.
Attendance restrictions will drastically impact the donations to the tournament's various charities. One of those charities, Special Olympics Arizona, will have to cancel their annual putting challenge. Instead, the nonprofit is hosting online events for kids with intellectual disabilities, including esports and health-oriented social activities.
So they've had a lot of fun building new skills and doing different things with each other just to maintain those social bonds. But also a lot of our fundraising is going virtual as well.
The Thunderbirds are also getting creative to find other ways to raise money. They're planning on implementing a program for the first time called Faces on 16. They'll be putting cardboard cutout faces on the 16th hole, but with their own twist.
It'll be a banner, that's kind of on the 16th hole. It'll be great, footage during the round on TV.
While the look and feel of this year's tournament will be different, the Thunderbirds' main goal to give back remains the same. In Scottsdale, Serena Raboyne, Cronkite News.
During the 2020 tournament, the Thunderbirds were able to raise over $14 million for local charities. That number will be drastically lower this year, but the Thunderbirds are planning a few post-tournament fundraisers to make up for the lost revenue. Here are 3 more sports stories we're tracking today. First, Major League Baseball has proposed a plan to delay spring training roughly a month. A vote by the MLB Players Association is expected to reject the proposal later today. The league is calling for spring training to start in late March, pushing opening day to April 28th, and reducing the season to 154 games. Second, Mercury fans can breathe a sigh of relief. Legend Diana Taurasi is staying in the Valley on a new multi-year contract. The team announced the deal runs through at least the 2022 season. Taurasi is the all-time WNBA leader in scoring and now has a realistic chance to surpass 10,000 career points. This news comes after the 38-year-old reportedly contemplated retirement. And third, former Arizona State Sun Devil Dustin Pedroia announced his retirement today. The second baseman has been playing with the Boston Red Sox since he got his start in 2006. The 3-time World Series champion was also named the American League Rookie of the Year in 2007, MVP in 2008, and won 4 Golden Glove Awards. Former Cardinals head coach Bruce Arians is headed to the Super Bowl. Even though he's preparing the Tampa Bay Bucks for the big game, today Arians reflected on his time in Arizona.
What a great organization. I loved all the time I had there. I wish I'd have stayed a little healthier. And I wish I'd learned how to delegate maybe a little sooner. It's just fond memories. The fans were fantastic. You know, they always supported our foundation. Every time we had an event, they would sell out. I can't thank them enough for that.
That's it for today's Cronkite Sports Report. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Kelsey. And finally tonight, one of the top trending stories on the internet today. 2 pandas taking the internet over by storm over in Washington, D.C. Check this out. These 2 are making the most of some winter weather and having lots of fun in the snow at the National Zoo. Unlike many Arizonans, the pair aren't fazed by the cold. Just look at them go. They even had an impromptu sledding session, sliding down a hill on their backs. We could just watch them all day.
How cute. That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.